Well, here's a topic that I knew was going to be in this season, which is about the hidden realities of being a solopreneur. And it is something I have wrestled with and fought my way through, as well as honored being a solopreneur for as long as I have. And that is the isolation of being a solopreneur. Whether you're new to having your own business, working by yourself, or if you're in your 5th or 10th year or longer like me, it's something that definitely is a concern. It's also something that stops a lot of people from venturing into exploring what it is to have your own business. So in this episode, I'm going to talk a lot about that. I'm going to tell stories of how I've dealt with it, how I've not dealt so well with it. And not that there's any right way. You got to find what's right for you. But you also have to understand that being a solopreneur has so many pluses. And like anything in life, you're going to have an upside and a downside. The choice is always yours to look at it in the healthiest way possible, how you can grow as a professional, as a human being, and work your way through it so you can be successful and give your business every opportunity to succeed. So let's go ahead and unpack that a little bit in this episode. Welcome to My Solopreneur Life. I'm Terry Pappy, your gracious host, and I am so glad you're here. I have a wonderful episode for you. Sit back, relax, and let's have some real talk about what it is to be a solopreneur. When I started my business, I was mostly focused on just getting business. It was a direct result of being laid off, and I couldn't find another job that would work for me. So it was like destiny when I meet a lot of people today that are in that situation where they get ripped from their jobs, the initial freak out happens, and then they're like, okay, should I consider being a consultant or hanging out my own shingle or whatever you want to call it? Entering into an entrepreneurial journey to build something bigger, better, and something that's mine, or for you, that's yours, and designed in such a way that you are the creative engine behind it. You see things, possibilities, you want to address problems that you have a lot of experience in or insight into, and you also want to exercise more of your gifts. Whereas in the job setting or in the corporate setting, a lot of that was thwarted by the structure, by the politics, by the limitations that come along with that. As with everything, you're going to have pluses and minuses. Being a solopreneur will have those challenges of really testing your ability to be on your own, to stand strong in who you are and honor your gifts and talents and take it out into the world and fulfill a mission. Be the captain of your destiny. I hate using all these cliches, but honestly, there's really no one way to compartmentalize being a solopreneur because, as I've said multiple times, it is the best personal growth experience, course, program you could ever do for yourself. And some people will go out on their own and they'll do it for a while and they'll grow and experience the things that they want to experience, and then they'll go back into the workforce. But what they're bringing back into the workforce is much more confidence and courage around their ability to bring value to the table. And I think that that's a wonderful thing. So being a solopreneur is not a life sentence. It's a choice, like anything. In this episode, I want to talk about some of the things that I've done to work my way through those periods where I felt like I was hermiting too much, or that I was feeling, I don't want to say depression, but just feeling that sense of isolation. And as much as I am an introvert, I also thrive on having conversations with one person. and really just digging deep and getting into those things because it exercises what I believe are my gifts and talents, being a guide, being a person who provides a simple pathway to relief, and being objective coming into someone else like a client's business and really being able to see where the magic is and just shifting them and pointing them to that magic and then helping them express it. I get so much fulfillment and satisfaction from that. It's my winning formula. It's how I provide the best value and my unique approach to people that I help and that I work with. And it could be a client, or it could be a friend. It could be somebody I don't even know and just in passing say something that lights them up, or act like an angel in a way, where you just kind of, and I always go with this. And this is one of my favorite things when I'm out in the world. It's funny because I've been dealing with some things in my personal life that are kind of tamping down my light. And it's an evolution of a transition out of a relationship and into a new way of being that part of me is super elated about. The other part is dealing with all the emotions and the turmoil around that. And I actually created an episode earlier in this season about when you have something happen in your personal life, it does affect your business as a solopreneur because it affects you. So go back and listen to that if you're dealing with something as well. When it comes to being a solopreneur, there are a lot of conditions in the environment that will change. One is you don't go to an office or you don't go to a place of work anymore. You essentially don't have the resources that you had in that job environment, whether the job was yesterday or whether it was 10 years ago. You don't have access to a lot of the input from people around you, the feedback from a boss, for example, the feedback from your teammates. Those inputs are no longer available. So what you have to do as a solopreneur is you have to find new inputs. You have to find new ways to create that sense of, I'm not alone in this, right? And you can't just put the burden on your clients to do that for you. You need to create a network. So that's what I'm going to talk about. Some of the drawbacks about being a solopreneur when it comes to isolation, working from home, not having all those resources or feedback loops is you can have decision fatigue. You can have blurred boundaries. You can actually have an identity drift, like you're questioning, am I doing the right thing? I'm not getting results. What's this all about? And you have the emotional weight of overthinking things. I know I'm a classic overthinker because I'm very intellectual. And sometimes I just get caught in these like, well, should I or should I not? Or what about this? And oh, I got to fix that. And it's like, it almost turns into some form of anxiety. And it's because I have a very busy mind and I love the feeling of working through something intellectually. That's just kind of my personality. So understanding your personality, your traits, your maybe even your human design or your Enneagram, really understanding through your own journey of self-examination this is why I said many times that being a solopreneur is like the best personal growth program you could ever do, because you have to turn the mirror inward and look at how you're being. And it's so hard to really be objective about that because we're myopic. We don't see how we're showing up in the world. It's other people who are our mirrors that show us exactly how we're showing up in the world. I remember seeing a photograph of me with my husband's brother and his wife and me, and we were kind of arm in arm, just a picture, and it was right around the time that Chuck passed away. His brother Tom sent it to me, and I was like, oh my God. And I saw myself, and I was thin. My skin was pale. My cheeks were hollow. I mean, I just looked like I lost weight. I didn't look well. And it was from the 6 years of the burden of worry about him, caregiving, and everything that I went through as he journeyed through cancer and then ultimately passed away. And I was in such a state of grief when that photo was taken. And that's a perfect example of how we really don't see ourselves, especially when it's a gradual stress or a gradual loneliness or a gradual struggle that we don't have the support structure around us to shore that up. As a solopreneur, when you're dealing with those types of burdens or challenges, it can come across to clients. It can come across in the things you post online or how you react to things happening in the world. It can become a trigger. And this is where you have to be careful, because you definitely don't want to push that out into the world, because you're responsible for your online brand, how you work with your clients, how you have conversations with prospects as you recruit and build more things into your business. As you're experiencing these things, there are things that you can do. And the number one thing I want to share with you is take responsibility for your own environment and for your own emotional support, your spiritual support, and your physical support from the standpoint of being out in the 3D world with others. And there are tons of ways that you can address this, and I'll share more stories. So the isolation can manifest in a negative way, or it can be a motivator for you. It can give you ideas on new products and services for your business. It can empower you to interact more or provide higher touch with your clients and prospects. It can motivate you to create new forms of content where you're sharing your authenticity. And that's something that I am really reaching in deep to find more ways to be authentic. And this is one way of me bringing out my authenticity, showing my soft underbelly to you as a listener, that it's okay to feel these things. And it's very normal. It's very normal and very healthy. So on the show notes page on my website, I'm going to have a lot more list of things and prompts that you can do. But these are some of the general areas that I want you to think about. And I'll try to use my own examples of where I've noticed that, these feelings were coming up, or this awareness was coming up. And I'm like, oh, I gotta be in action. And I moved to Southeast Florida about 8 years ago, and I didn't have a network of resources. Everything that I'd had built for my business, as far as relationships, support structure, peers, people in the digital world that, I was hanging out with all my geek friends in Orlando, and I had a wonderful network of friends, business colleagues, clients in Orlando. So when I moved to Palm Beach, which was about 2.5 hours southeast of Orlando, it was a personal decision based on a relationship that I had. And I was also ready for a change. And the nice thing about being a solopreneur and being independent meant I was able to pick up and just go. And I love that aspect. I love the sense of freedom. I've always kind of had that bohemian gypsy approach, but I also love to nest. And so the time was right for me to make that move. And when I came to Southeast Florida, I didn't know anybody except for one person, and that was my best friend. That was part of the reason why I moved down there. And she was very supportive, and I had somebody there. So I kind of had an anchor. So when you're a solopreneur, your friends are going to be incredibly important. Not only because they see you for who you are and accept you for who you are, but they can also be really good mirrors for the work you're doing as a solopreneur. So having that circle of friends and growing that circle of friends is vital to being a solopreneur. Now, based on your human design, for example, if you know your kind of makeup, and I'm a projector, which is a challenging human design body graph to have, because it's all about being a guide, being an inspiration to others. Can you tell? And also why I'm always challenged with self-promotion, because projectors are all about waiting for the invitation. And so for me, it was about creating additional relationships with peers, with other women who had their own business. So we had something in common, and expanding my network in that area. Some of the things that I did when I moved to that area was I joined a professional women's regional networking group. The reason why I chose that was because they had in-person meetings. So they'd have luncheons, they'd have lunch and learns, they'd have social events. It was a great way to not only get to know other people that had their own business, but to create a sense of belonging in that community. And so think of if you're struggling with an in-person type of activity in your area as a solopreneur, because I work from home. And if you're a solo, you probably work from home too. And that means there's no office environment, there's no camaraderie, there's no shared complaints about, oh, being a solopreneur is this, and I have trouble with my marketing funnel, and oh, I was working on this platform, and you really don't have anybody to talk to in person. So creating that local 3D other human beings who are sharing similar activities or thoughts or challenges that you are is vital. What I did was I went on Meetup and I just typed in my area and I said professional women, business networking. I wasn't looking for the typical networking groups where you basically throw out business cards and take other people's cards and then you go home and you try to figure out, all right, are any of these in alignment with what I'm trying to do? What was funny was there was a class of people that were in this group that were like, here's my business card, that kind of thing. And then there was another group, a larger segment of the group, were women who really wanted to help and really wanted to get to know you and things like that. And that's where it's really rewarding. When you go into these professional groups, whether it's an in-person group or whether it's an online group, and I think having both is really important. So for example, recently I joined this networking group called The Connective. And if you want to talk to me about it, just connect with me offline. What I like about it is it's not like your typical BNI where it's the whole business card kind of referral thing where you're almost like scoring points. It is a referral program, but it's structured very differently. And it's about getting to know people. It's about expanding your network and resources so you can help fellow solopreneurs or small businesses. So far, it's been really great because what it does is it gets people on my calendar to talk to. It gets me in front of people that I don't know if there's alignment. I don't know if I can even help them or refer them. And I'm finding out that I really can. Like I have a bigger network than I realized. This is an exciting new thing that I'm doing. But again, I'm talking with people like yesterday, I talked with somebody from the UK and I'm like, okay, I don't really know anybody in the UK, but their business is a virtual business and they are serving clients in the US. So why not? And I love the UK accent, by the way. This guy was absolutely delightful. We hit it off and it was remarkable because it gives you the opportunity to be seen by others and to be recognized. So it's not so mechanical around the networking stigma that comes along with that. That's what I highly recommend. Find a 3D way to get out in the world and just be among people. Even if it's like I'm a writer. So going to a coffee house or a restaurant where I could sit at the bar and just journal or work on my laptop. I love that. And when I'm working on a book project, that's something that's way interesting. Sometimes somebody will come up to me and they'll say, what are you working on? Usually some guy who's trying to hit on me, which I'm okay with. But it always leads to a really interesting conversation. And I love getting to know people. I'm very curious because as a writer, I love to research and understand the human psyche and why we make decisions the way we do. I always find just being out in the world, even though it comes to a point for me being a projector, being around a lot of people can be draining. And, being an introvert, you'd never know it, but yes, I'm an introvert. And that's another aspect. If you're not into human design, it aligns pretty closely to Myers-Briggs, believe it or not. If you're an extrovert in your Myers-Briggs, then being out among people feeds you and it's a source for you. So find ways to do that. Find ways to join clubs, to do activities, even physical activities. Like down here in Southeast Florida, a big thing is paddleboarding. There's lots of water everywhere and waterways, and there's all kind of groups that you can go out and do those things. Join a pickleball league, go to the gym. I mean, there's a lot of different ways when you have the freedom and flexibility in your solopreneur schedule to create those outlets where you're out with people in 3D. And that's definitely something that's so important that you need to keep on the front line of your attention so you don't fall into these modes where you hermit. And that's what was happening to me. I'd go through these periods where I was too inward, but you also need to balance it with being out in the world. And that's where you create environmental variety. Change up your routine. Go a different route to Starbucks or wherever you're used to going over and over. Instead of going to one grocery store, try a different one. I love just making friends, walking down an aisle and making somebody smile. That's just my thing. Having those micro connections really is beneficial. And you'd be surprised at how just one of those interactions can make your day. Having those playful moments, letting your personality shine when you're out in the world is so nourishing. So I really want to encourage that for you. Another thing is you may want to look at picking up some sort of, and I know this is contrary to everything about being a solopreneur, but you might want to pick up like a side job where you have the ability to get into a situation where you're around other people, you have a way to contribute and earn money, but it's a nice complement to what you're doing. I took some side hustle jobs while I was being a solopreneur, but my work kind of got slow. And one of them was working for AAA, the American Automobile Association. It was just a 3-month gig, but I was able to go and be with other people, have like more of a traditional 9 to 5 exercise that I did every day. And it was great. And in fact, at the end of that, they offered me a full-time job. And I was like, no. Went back to my business, and it helps put your business and what you're doing as a solopreneur in a whole new light. So you appreciate it that much more. So that's also something you can look at doing. Exercise is really, really important. Whenever you're feeling lonely and isolated and you're starting to overthink things, that's my classic symptom, get out and exercise. And I know that whenever my brain or my thought pattern goes down that tunnel with no cheese, is my expression, where it's not being helpful, it builds worry on worry, because that's another thing that isolation can do. When you're feeling lonely, you can start deteriorating your thinking, like, oh my God, what if this happens? And then that, and then it becomes this big snowball. That's something you have to be conscious of. And you have to be aware that if that's your tendency, you've got to keep it in check. The best thing I know to do for myself is to go for a walk. And I'll grab the dog and I'll get out there and I'll go for a walk. And I'll listen to something inspirational on YouTube or an audiobook or anything. Sometimes I'll have a conversation with Gemini and just talk about those things, which leads me to my next solution, which is use AI. If you are feeling lonely, isolated, cut off from the world, if you're burdened by stress about your business, you're worried about your pipeline or whatever's going on, use AI to have a conversation, to work through it. And what's great about AI is you can be as vulnerable, as transparent, as honest, like treat it like a therapist. But you got to remember, you got to take it with a grain of salt because it is artificial intelligence. So if you give it the right kind of prompt, if you talk to it in a way that gives it some framework as far as where your spiritual center is, what you're interested in doing, and as you know that there's a tendency for AI to be a little overly flattering or a sycophant and, say, oh, you're the best and this, that, and the other. And you have to make sure that you put guardrails around that because you obviously want to get some value out of it. So when you work with AI, when you're talking back and forth with it, you need to make sure that it's providing you the guidance or the feedback or the reframing, which is what I like about AI, that elevates your mood, that gets you out of that sense of loneliness, that moves you into a better state of mind. And if you're not having that result, then you need to either stop using AI or use it differently. And there's a lot of great resources that you can tap into. For example, when I go for a walk and I want to have a conversation with Gemini, I will have it on my phone and I'll press, like a prompt and put it on the microphone and I'll just talk. I'll be like, this is what's going on. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm thinking. And I just kind of let it all pour out. And then I press, send. And then what comes back, I'll press the audio button and have it speak it to me. So I feel like I'm having a real conversation. And it's different than reading, hearing the voice from the AI. And if you do a really good prompt or build a chat thread that it picks up on a lot of things, you'd be amazed at how helpful it can be. So for me, it's like my venting room. And so that way I'm not burdening my friends with all this heavy stuff or goofy stuff that I'm sharing with AI. So that's another thing you can do is leverage AI to help you sort through some of your thoughts and ask AI to kind of make fun of your situation, make light of it in a positive way. So that way you're like, oh God, I can't believe I'm so worked up about that. That's ridiculous. And then the last thing that I'm going to point out, and then because I'm just kind of going on, is get out there and build your business. This is the number one loneliness killer, is when you get out there and start talking to prospects, talking to clients, interviewing people like me, doing this podcast, getting someone on here, having a conversation, and really digging into a topic is so fulfilling. Making sure that what you're doing is of a giving and contribution nature versus I'm going to talk to this person and try to get business from them. Shift your attitude to one of, hey, we're all in this together. We're all learning from each other. We're all benefiting from each other's gifts and talents. And let's go shoulder to shoulder and figure it out together. And I think if you go into any type of conversation or relationship where you're communicating in that way, it's so valuable. Don't let the excuses of, oh, they're too busy or, oh, they don't have time to get to know me. No, be different. Be that high touch person. Be the one committed to building and developing a deeper relationship, a deeper connection. Because not only will it come back to you tenfold, but you will start showing up to others very uniquely and very differently because you're sharing your soul, your soft underbelly, as I like to say, and you're also finding opportunities where you can brighten someone's day. And so when you're giving of your heart, when you're giving of your skills and talents, not to get anything in return, but to actually inspire somebody, that feeds you. And if you're out there doing that for others, that's the best loneliness killer, let me tell you. Go out there, be who you are, share your life with others, honor your private time, your me time. It's sacred. Develop your inner self, your inner connection, and then spread that joy out there in the world. And I'm telling you what, you will never have a sense of loneliness or isolation being a solopreneur again. Well, I know you're disappointed, but that's it for this episode. Listen, the great news is there's another one coming, so stay tuned. Anyway, I just want to make sure that you do the prompt. If this episode had a prompt, and you get that homework done because you're going to be a better solopreneur. How's that for a maternal finger shaking at you? Hey, listen, thanks so much for being here, for giving me time of your day, and, for taking it on. So if you want to learn more and stay connected with me, just head on over to mysolopreneurlife.com. Thanks a bunch. See you soon. That was pretty good. I think I'll keep that one.